Chapter 24. The Golden Tooth. Theo woke up the next morning, getting up from the bed, stretching, yawning. As he got up, he saw Leo doing push-ups, all sweaty. Theo said, "Aye, boy, what the hell are you doing?" "Push-ups," Leo replied, still going. "Don't push so hard," Theo said, yawning. "You'll still get that proteinless shit they call food." Leo stopped midway. "What do you mean by that?" Theo leaned back on his bed and chuckled. "You think they're serving steak and omelets here? This ain't no hotel, son. You keep pushing like that, you'll break yourself before breakfast." Suddenly, their door opened. A guard stepped in, dropped a bag in front of Theodore, and said, "Here," before walking away and locking the door again. Leo looked confused. "What is that?" Theo smirked. "You can't eat this in front of the other inmates, and that would be unfair." He opened the bag and pulled out food. Boiled eggs, chicken sandwiches, bananas, milk, and beer. So much food that Leo's eyes widened. "Whoa, we get this to eat?" Leo asked, surprised. Theo glanced up. "We?" He gave a low chuckle. "Not we, boy. Just me." Leo blinked. "Why just you?" Theo stopped midway, turned to him and said, "If you live long enough, you'll learn. Enemies make you stronger, but friends keep you alive." Leo paused, then said, "Okay, but I meant, why are you getting special treatment?" Theo threw his arms wide, irritated by Leo's stupidity. "Are you nuts? What did I just say?" Leo looked up. "Well, you said, if you live long enough." Theo cut him off. No, what did you understand from it?" Leo thought for a moment. "Right, I get it, he's your friend." Theo slapped his forehead and sighed. "You're getting on my nerves this early." He started eating while Leo stared at the food, his mouth watering. Theo sighed. All right, don't drown the damn floor with your drool. Come here, I can't finish this all by myself." The sun rose high in the afternoon. Leo and Theo were hanging around in the prison yard. "You should exercise here," Theo said to Leo, pointing towards a small gym occupied by several inmates. Leo nodded and started walking. "Why aren't you coming?" he asked. "Nah, boy." Theo chuckled. "This 60-year-old ass can't do that shit. You go, I'm sitting on this bench." Leo headed toward the open gym while Theo leaned back on the bench, watching him go. Leo spotted an empty bench press in the corner of the open gym. "Perfect," he said with a grin, walking toward it. He laid down, gripping the cold metal bar, just about to lift, when a tall black inmate approached, his shadow falling across Leo's face. "Move your ass, boy," the man said coldly. "This place ain't for kids." Leo looked up. "Why? I haven't even used it yet." "Then let me do it first," the man said, smirking. "You wait." Leo didn't want trouble. He quietly stepped aside, deciding to wait his turn. The black man laid down on the bench and grabbed the rod. But just as he was about to lift, another hand grabbed it, stopping him. It was Theo. "What are you doing, huh?" Theo said, his voice calm but heavy. "You should wait for your turn." The black man sat up quickly, anger flashing in his eyes. He stood, towering over Theo. "Who the hell do you think you are, old man?" he shouted. Theo didn't flinch. "Don't talk so loud. Didn't your parents teach you manners?" The man growled, grabbed Theo by the collar, and hissed. "Yeah, they did. That's why I haven't killed you yet." A scene erupted. Inmates gathered around, forming a tense circle. Leo jumped in, panicked. "Theo, stop. There's no need to do this." But Theo's roar cut through the noise. "Shut up! Stay back!" His voice hit like thunder. Even the air around them froze. Leo had never seen him like that. The funny old man was gone. What stood before him now was something else. Cold, dangerous, unshaken. The black man released Theo's collar, but his pride wouldn't let him back away. Theo looked him straight in the eyes. "I'm assuming you're new here." The man frowned. "What do you mean by that?" Theo didn't answer. He didn't have to. The black man's eyes darted around. He saw the tense faces of nearby inmates, some subtly shaking their heads in warning. Then he looked up at the guards standing on the walls. Even they were signaling no. The realization hit him hard. He turned back to Theo, who stood calm, silent, and unbothered. The man looked into Theo's eyes. "I'm not in the mood today," he muttered, then turned and walked away. The yard went quiet again. All eyes stayed on Theo, the old man who just reminded everyone that in prison power doesn't always come from muscle. And Leo stood there thinking, it might be that same Theodore. Is it really him? I think he is. Time passed fast. The sun went down and the moon rose high above the prison walls. All inmates were locked in their rooms. So were Leo and Theo. "Man, that chicken was good," Theo said, rubbing his belly with a grin. "Wasn't it?" Leo didn't reply. He was lost in thought. Theo glanced at him. "Still not over that little incident? That's my routine, boy." Leo shook his head. "No, I was thinking about something else." Theo raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" Leo hesitated, then said quietly, "I could have done what you did, but I don't know why I didn't. Maybe I was scared." Theo chuckled softly. "No, you weren't scared. You just didn't want any trouble." "Yeah, you're right." Theo's face turned serious. "And that's the same damn thing as being scared. There's no difference." Leo frowned. "I don't get it." Theo leaned forward. His voice dropped low and sharp. "To you, it looks like you avoided trouble. But to him, he saw fear. And once a man smells fear in here, he owns you. First he beats your ass, then someone else does, and after that, everyone does. You'd end up broken, worse than dead." Leo froze. "Oh my, I won't make that mistake again." Theo nodded once. "You'd better not." Meanwhile, outside the prison walls, the world moved on. Lucas sat on a bench, legs spread wide, exhaustion written all over his face. He sighed. "Man, I'm so done with this." Troy stood in front of him, silent and lost in deep thought. Lucas continued. "We've been searching for them for hours, nonstop, checked every place, every CCTV footage from the stations, everything. Still not a single clue about where they are." For the first time, Troy's calm face showed tension. "Where the hell could they be hiding?" he muttered to himself. He sighed in frustration and said, "Let's meet Carter, we need more men." Lucas nodded. "Yeah, let's go, he must be in that pit." In the fighting pit, Troy met Carter and explained the situation. Carter listened, then said, "Troy, if you couldn't find them, then no one could." Troy's jaw tightened. "So what do you suggest I do?" Carter blinked, genuinely surprised. "What happened to you, Troy? You're not the kind of guy who asks for advice." But Troy looked drained. The stress was written all over him. His mind just wasn't working anymore. Carter understood and nodded. "All right. I'll send 5 of my men to search for them and professionals, but you should also keep an eye on their house. They might go there." Lucas, standing beside him, replied, "We've already arranged that, but I don't get it. Why would they go home after such a tragedy? What could they possibly tell their parents?" Carter smirked faintly. "They'd probably say they went on a mountain trip, and the other one fell off a cliff and died. No body to be found." Lucas raised his eyebrows. "Whoa, I never thought of it that way." Troy stepped in. "Anyway," he said, turning to Carter, "you do your part. We'll handle ours." He shook Carter's hand firmly, his eyes cold with purpose. "They're the living proof, Carter," Troy said. "We need them." When they stepped out, Lucas started talking nonstop. "We should get home and get some rest. After all, our bodies need energy. Maybe grab some food, sleep a little." He kept rambling, but Troy wasn't listening. His mind was somewhere else, lost in thought. Troy reached into his pocket to pull out his phone, but it slipped from his hand and clattered to the ground. "Oh, fuck," he muttered, sighing as he bent down to pick it up. But midway, he froze. He picked up his phone cue and something else lying next to it. He looked closely at it, eyes narrowing. Lucas leaned in. "What is it, a golden tooth? Whoa, today's our lucky day." "Yeah," he said quietly. "Today's really our lucky day." Chapter 25. The Empire Beneath. Troy held the golden tooth in his hand, something sparking in his mind. He remembered. The boy Leo killed had a golden tooth. He'd seen it glint under the dim light that night. But now it was here. The question clawed at him. Why? And was it really his tooth? His gaze drifted toward the few stairs leading down to the ground floor of the fighting pit. Slowly, he descended. Lucas followed close behind. "What happened?" he asked. Troy's eyes scanned the dirt. "Shut up," he whispered. He crouched down. "Footprints," he muttered. "They're fresh." He moved toward the staircase leading up. His fingers brushed the iron railing. Slick. "Oil," he said quietly. "Someone's touched this recently." Lucas frowned. "No one would ever dare live here." Troy pointed at the steps. "Look, multiple footprints, different sizes." Lucas's eyes widened as he met Troy's gaze. "You mean—" Troy nodded. Lucas clenched his jaw. "Those bastards, they think they're smart." Troy's voice stayed calm. "They are smart. hiding in the same place where the crime happened, so no one would ever think to look here. On the third floor, the four boys sat inside a cramped storage room, unaware of what was coming for them. "When are we going to go home?" one asked, his voice low. "Yeah," another replied. "It's been literally a week." A third boy spoke up. "Believe me, we shouldn't go home. We should start a new life." But the one they all looked up to, their leader, shook his head. "We've talked about this. We're going home. We'll start a new life, college, university, and then jobs. No more fighting." One of them sighed. "Yeah, you're right. Look what happened to our brother. He died. Deep down, it was our fault." "Our fault for being weak," another muttered. "Don't say that," the leader snapped softly. "We don't have the energy to take revenge." "Whatever," one said, standing up. "It's been a week. We should get home before he finds us." "Oh no, he won't," another smirked. "He had a whole week and still couldn't find us. He'll never find us." He barely finished the sentence when the door burst open with a violent kick. Troy and Lucas stood in the doorway, guns raised. Lucas grinned coldly. "Actually, it's just one day for us." Troy's voice was calm but sharp. "Don't make a sound, hands behind your head, lie down." The boys froze. One of them trembled, the wet stain spreading down his pants. The silence that followed was heavier than fear itself. Troy moved like a shadow. The boys were bound with rope, their mouths stuffed with torn cloth. He stepped up to one of them, yanked the rag away, and stared at him. "What did you do with the dead body?" he asked, voice flat. The boy's eyes were wide. He stammered. We buried him." "Where?" Troy pressed. The boy swallowed, voice a thin thread. Troy leaned closer, teeth clenched. "I said, where?" "On the city's outskirts. Street 12, house number 47's in the yard of that abandoned house," the boy blurted. "Ch." Troy spat the sound, one word, cold. He shoved the cloth back into the boy's mouth and moved on to Lucas. "I take back my words, and they aren't smart," he muttered as he approached Lucas. "We should put that body somewhere else." Lucas shrugged, amused. "I thought the same thing." Troy's eyes flicked to the four boys, then back at Lucas. "And how are we supposed to deal with them? Can't exactly kill them here." Lucas's smirk widened. "Relax, I already have a plan." Troy nodded once. "Fine. I'll leave the rest to you." He paused at the doorway, looking down at one specific boy. His gaze landed on the boy's nose, swollen, still healing. "Look at his nose," Troy said softly. "Still hasn't healed." Then he stepped out into the corridor and closed the door behind him. Lucas pulled out his phone, thumb hovering for a second before dialing. "Hey," he said into the receiver, voice low and steady. "I need a van and—" Next day. Breaking news. The Daily Chronicle. 4 young men found dead in an abandoned house. Police suspect drug overdose. Authorities discovered the bodies of 4 young men, aged between 19 and 20, inside an abandoned house on the city's outskirts last night. Police officials confirmed that methamphetamine, heroin, and alcohol were recovered from the scene. Initial reports indicate the victims died from a possible drug overdose. The identities of the deceased have not yet been released. Police say a full autopsy report is expected within the next 24 hours as the investigation continues. Zeke's dad lowered the newspaper, eyes widening. "Whoa, great job, Troy, but how did you even know they were there?" Troy stood in front of him, a faint smile crossing his face. "Well," he said, letting the word hang in the air. He told him the full story. Zeke's dad sat behind his desk, the morning light spilling through the blinds. The newspaper lay folded beside him, and Troy sat across from him. Zeke's dad leaned back in his chair. "Impressive," he said finally. "You and Lucas did a great job." Troy gave a faint nod, saying nothing. Zeke's dad leaned forward, fingers drumming on the desk. "And what about that dead boy?" he asked. Troy's tone stayed even. "I told his parents we're still looking for him. I'll keep it that way for now, then figure out the next move." Zeke's dad gave a slow nod. The room fell quiet for a beat. "How's Leo?" he asked finally. "I haven't checked on him yet," Troy replied. "You should," Zeke's dad said. "We can't risk losing that gem." "Yeah, I know, but Theodore would never fail us." Zeke's dad allowed himself a faint smile. "He's one hell of a guy. Remember when he threw the whole city into chaos?" Troy let out a low chuckle. "Yeah, that's when we first met him. He really gave us trouble." The smile slipped from Zeke's dad's face. His voice dropped. "Yes, but to this day we still don't know how he got so badly injured when we found him." Troy nodded slowly. "Yeah, And he never told us, just gave one hint. It wasn't the police. Zeke's dad sighed, leaning back in his chair. I guess we'll never know. In the prison visiting room, the room was divided by a thick glass wall, clear but soundproof. On one side sat the prisoners, each with a corded phone pressed to their ear. On the other side, the visitors separated by inches of glass and 100 unspoken things. Troy sat down, elbows on the table, the receiver hanging loosely in his hand as he waited. Then Theodore appeared, calm, smiling, as if the world outside these walls didn't matter. He sat opposite Troy, picked up the phone, and spoke through the glass. Yo, Troy, he said, grinning. It's been a while, how's it going? Troy didn't return the smile. How's Leo? He asked flatly. Theodore chuckled. Oh, come on, straight to him, don't even want to ask how I'm doing? Troy's expression didn't change. His eyes were cold, fixed on Theodore's. Ah, fine, Theodore said, waving a hand dismissively. He's doing good, but the food you send us much better than what they serve here. They stared at each other through the glass, silence stretching between them. That's it? Troy asked. Yeah, Theodore replied. Troy's patience cracked. His voice hardened. Listen, you motherfucker, tell me every detail. The smile drained from Theodore's face, replaced by something sharper, authority. Troy, he said slowly, his tone now cold. Are you questioning my work? He leaned forward, his eyes burning. I know my job better than anyone. Next time, don't bother coming here. He paused, then added with a smirk. And yeah, he's doing good. Theodore slammed the phone down, stood and walked away. Troy stayed seated, his reflection staring back at him from the glass. He muttered under his breath, Damn you, bastard. Meanwhile, Zeke sat cross-legged in front of a grave, the cold evening wind brushing past him. The name Ryder was carved deep into the stone. You left too early, Zeke said softly, staring at the ground. I wish I'd been strong enough to protect you, or brave enough to avenge you. He let out a long breath. If only I hadn't taken you there. We could have gone to our usual spot instead. A voice came from behind him, calm but firm. It wasn't your fault. Zeke turned slightly as his father walked up and sat beside him. You want me to say that to myself every night, Zeke muttered, just to make me feel less guilty. I don't mean it like that, his father said quietly. Come on, Zeke snapped, his tone sharp. You know it too. It was my fault, and that's the reality. His father's gaze stayed on the grave. If you want to talk about reality, he said, then it was both of your faults. Yeah, Zeke sighed, we shouldn't have gone. No, his father replied, shaking his head. Not for going there, but for not handling the situation you got into. Zeke frowned. I don't think so, we shouldn't have gone in the first place. His father gave a faint smile. People love adventure. Doing new things, going to new places. That's how they end up in dangerous situations. What matters is how you handle it. Zeke clenched his fists. I fought them, I tried, and still, look what happened. His father looked at him steadily. You didn't handle it right, that's not how power works. Zeke turned to him. Then how should I have handled it? You don't understand power yet, his father said, standing up. Come with me. Zeke rose to his feet, confused. Where? His father glanced toward the road. Just come with me. They walked together in silence, the wind rustling through the trees until they reached the car. The car rolled to a stop in front of a massive metal fabrication factory. Its sign, weathered but proud, read, Merino Industries. Zeke frowned, turning to his father. Why are we here? His father didn't answer. He simply stepped out of the car and walked toward the main building, his coat swaying in the cold air. Zeke followed, confused but curious. Inside, the factory looked dead. Silent machines, scattered tools, and the faint smell of oil and iron and workers working. It's still the same as the last time I saw it, Zeke said, his voice echoing slightly. That was 5 years ago? His father stopped near the far end of the hall, facing a large industrial wall panel. Old, covered in rust and faded paint. Well then, he said, turning slightly, you haven't seen this. He reached behind a stack of metal sheets, pulling aside a bent steel plate that looked like part of the wall. Hidden behind it was a concealed biometric pad, buried in dust. Zeke blinked. What the hell is that? His father pressed his thumb to the scanner. A faint click echoed, followed by the grinding sound of gears behind the wall. Slowly, A metal door, disguised perfectly within the structure, began sliding open. Zeke stepped closer, eyes widening as a gust of cold air drifted out from the darkness beyond. A staircase led down, dimly lit, industrial, stretching deep underground. His father descended without a word. Zeke hesitated, then followed. When they reached the bottom, Zeke froze. The basement was nothing like the factory above. The air was alive with noise, the sharp clang of metal, the hiss of welding torches, and the murmur of men working at long tables. It wasn't just a workshop, it was an arsenal. Dozens of workers were assembling weapons, rifles, compact explosives, modified handguns, all under heavy lights and ventilation fans. Zeke's heart pounded as he took it all in. What is this place? He whispered. His father looked at him, his voice calm but heavy. This, Zeke, is the empire I made. Zeke's dad looked around the basement, pride gleaming in his eyes. And not only this, he said, his voice low but steady. I have 4 more. Zeke's stomach turned. No, this isn't right. It's illegal. His father chuckled softly, shaking his head. Illegal? He repeated. It took me years of sweat, blood, and sleepless nights to build this empire, and you call it illegal? You're still such a child, Zeke. Zeke clenched his fists. What do you mean by that? His father stepped closer, his tone sharpening. Listen, kid. Read history. No empire was ever built on kindness or virtue. They were forged in blood, by killing, deceiving, burning anyone who dared stand in the way. Zeke's silence was heavy, his eyes fixed on the glowing metal in the forge. His father went on, his voice almost philosophical now. It's only in modern times that they've drawn these lines. Legal and illegal. Illusions for the obedient. The truth is, only a few break out of that matrix and do whatever they want. And I'm one of them. Zeke stood there, frozen, the noise of the machines echoing in his head, his beliefs, his morals, his entire world quietly cracking. Zeke slowly said, You want me to carry on your legacy? His dad smiled faintly. Yes, you're right. Then listen to me, Zeke said firmly. I won't. I will not do it. I'd rather open a small antique shop and live a peaceful life. His dad exhaled deeply, almost disappointed but calm. Okay, it's your choice, but tell me something. Zeke looked at his dad, alert. His dad's tone darkened. If a robber walks into your shop with a gun, what will you do? I'll give him the money, Zeke replied. Life matters more. He nodded. And what if he shoots you anyway? Zeke froze. He had no answer. Okay, fine, his dad continued. Forget the shooting. He takes your money and runs. You go to the police to file a report. Then what? They'll find him, Zeke said, less certain now, and I'll get my money back. He smiled bitterly. And what if they never find him, because the police officer you trusted was the one who robbed you? Zeke's eyes widened. That would never happen. But it did happen to me, he said quietly, when I was your age. The words hit Zeke like a punch. Silence hung between them. The government doesn't give a damn about you, son, his dad went on. You have to take your rights yourself. No one's coming to save you. Look at your friend. He died. Did you avenge him? Did the police help? Zeke looked down. No. His dad turned toward a nearby table, picked up a folded newspaper and handed it to him. Read this. Zeke unfolded it and read aloud. 4 young men found dead in abandoned house. He stopped midway, eyes narrowing. Are they? Yes, he said coldly. The same boys. You know who did it? Him. He pointed toward Troy, who was overseeing the workers in the distance. Zeke's face went pale. That's the same officer. He's your man? He smirked. Yes. That's how the world works, son. The man you thought was enforcing justice was enforcing mine. Zeke stared at the paper, his expression unreadable. This is the most useful thing you've done so far, he said finally. His dad chuckled. Glad to see you're starting to understand, but remember, if you were powerful back then, your name alone would have scared them. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. That's the reality of this world, Zeke. The strong live and the weak perish. You might think all this is about money, but no. He turned, his tone rising with pride. I did it for power. He looked back at his son, eyes cold and certain. From Asia to Europe, Europe to Africa, and Africa to America, they all know one name and fear it. He paused, voice heavy with authority. Ralph Marino, Chapter 26. Becoming Him. Zeke lay flat on his bed, eyes open, staring at the cracked ceiling. Sleep refused to come. His father's words echoed in his head, looping like a curse he couldn't shut off. He'd always known his father wasn't a saint. Whispers, rumors, the strange visitors at night. But he never imagined the man he called Dad could be the head of a mafia. A man with power, money, blood on his hands. Zeke exhaled sharply and turned on his side, thinking back to that talk. His father's voice still felt alive in the room. Calm, powerful, persuasive. If you were powerful back then, your name alone would have scared them. Those words burned deeper than any wound. He closed his eyes, trying to silence the guilt, but his imagination took over. He replayed the day he and Ryder faced those street thugs. Except this time, he twisted the memory. In his mind, he saw himself standing tall before them, fearless. The leader of the group sneered, pulling out a knife, but Zeke didn't flinch. He took one step closer, his gaze cold and steady. "Do you have any idea who I am?" he whispered. Something in his tone made them hesitate. Their arrogance cracked. Zeke didn't even raise a hand, just looked at them the way his father once looked at him, with quiet dominance. And just like that, in his fantasy, they backed away, muttering excuses before disappearing into the night. The imagined scene ended, leaving a hollow ache in his chest. His father's words did make him feel strong, unstoppable even. But that same power felt dangerous, like holding a blade that could turn on him any time. One side of him wanted to embrace it, to become what his father believed he could be. The other side still clung to whatever conscience he had left. And that war inside him wouldn't let him sleep. Frustrated, Zeke threw the blanket aside, grabbed his jacket, and stepped into the cold night air. The streets were mostly empty. The faint sound of shouting and cheers came from down the block, the underground fight club. He walked toward it, his mind still spinning. As he turned the corner, he saw Troy sitting on the stairs of a plaza, a cigarette burning between his fingers. The orange glow lit his tired face. Troy looked like a man buried under his own thoughts. Zeke walked up and stood beside him silently. Troy turned his head slightly. "Hey, still want to fight in the arena?" "No," Zeke said quietly, "just came as a spectator." He sat down beside him. For a while, neither spoke, and just the soft sound of the cigarette crackling. Finally, Zeke broke the silence. "I never expected you'd turn out to be my dad's man." Troy smirked. "Why? What's wrong with that? I earn good money from him." "It's just strange, a criminal disguised as a police officer." "I'm not disguising as anybody," Troy said, flicking ash onto the pavement. "I'm loyal to both my jobs." "Loyal to both?" Zeke frowned. "Or betraying one while serving the other?" Troy took a long drag, exhaled slowly. "You think I care about right or wrong? I've seen both sides rot the same way. I just pick the one that pays faster." Zeke stared at him, speechless. He wanted to argue, to say something that proved right still mattered, but the words stuck in his throat. If both sides were rotten, then what was left for him to become? He looked away, jaw tight, realizing there's no point to argue. Silence again. The wind carried faint roars from the fight club down the street. Zeke's voice softened. "So what are you doing here?" "Checking the building," Troy said. "After catching those boys, gotta make sure the cops stay away." "About those boys?" Zeke hesitated. "How do you feel after it?" Troy looked at him blankly. "After what?" "Killing them. It'd be hard for me to kill anybody." Troy chuckled bitterly. "Well, I feel nothing." Zeke's jaw tightened. "Is that what life means to you, just killing people like it's nothing?" Troy raised a brow. "Why would you care about those boys? I mean other people. How many lives have you taken, Troy? Life matters. You can't go around and kill anybody you want." Troy looked at him sharply. "Life matters, huh? Yeah, it does, but whose life?" "Every life." Troy shook his head. "No, not every life." "What are you trying to say?" Troy dropped his cigarette, crushed it under his boot, and stared ahead. "Let me ask you something. There's a train on a track. Ahead, the track splits in two. On one side, 6 people are tied down. On the other side, your mom. You can't stop the train. You can only change the track. Who do you save?" Zeke answered instantly. "My mom?" But that's one life for 6. Why would I care about those 6? Who are they to me? If I save them, what? Do they send me a thank you card? Troy smiled faintly and patted his shoulder. Now you're getting it. Life matters only for the people we love. Zeke looked down, conflicted. But still, Troy's smile faded. You really don't get it, do you? What do you think Leo's in jail for? Dad told me he beat his uncle. Yeah, that's true, but do you know what happened before that? Zeke looked up. What? Troy's eyes darkened. He killed one of those boys, and for you. He understands it, yet you still think like a child. Troy stood up, dusted off his pants, and walked away without another word. Zeke sat there in silence, his mind spinning, the night colder than before. He killed someone, for me. His chest tightened. His pulse slowed. He wanted to cry, but couldn't. The cheers from the fight club echoed in the distance, but Zeke didn't move. He just sat there staring into the dark, torn between the man he wanted to be and the man his father was forcing him to become. Meanwhile, in the prison, night draped over the prison walls like a heavy cloak. Inside their dimly lit cell, Leo and Theo sat on their beds, the silence broken only by Theo's deep voice as he told yet another story from his violent past. And then the guy who was threatening me started begging for his life, Theo said, eyes distant. But I still killed him. Leo yawned mid-sentence, half impressed, half bored. Wow, you're amazing, he said dryly. Theo narrowed his eyes. You don't enjoy my stories, do you? Well, I'm the type of guy who prefers living them rather than listening to them. Theo sighed and leaned against the cold wall. After a long pause, he asked, Hey, you told me you're a fighter, huh? Yeah, any doubt? No, I was just... Theo stopped, thinking for a moment before changing the topic. Are you sleepy? Not yet. You got energy? Energy for what? Andre swung again, wild and angry, missed. Leo countered fast, his foot sinking into Andre's gut. Andre doubled over, choking, but came back with another swing. Leo ducked, caught his leg, and yanked. Andre crashed onto the floor, dust exploding around them. The noise from the inmates turned feral. Leo tightened the hold, muscles burning until he heard the pop of a joint. Andre's scream got swallowed by the roar of the crowd. The referee raised Leo's arm. Winner and new champion, Leo. The crowd exploded with cheers. Theo beamed from the sidelines, clapping like a proud coach. But behind the crowd, a tall, bald man stood in silence. Arms folded, eyes locked on Leo, his jaw slightly open in shock. The bald man froze, eyes widening, not in surprise, but recognition. Is it really him? He whispered. Next chapter's dropping soon. Subscribe so you won't miss it.